It is a serious problem for tech founders. They get so busy developing their R&D and building products and services, they forget about the really important fundamentals of starting a new company, keeping track of legal agreements, also tracking intellectual property during the development phase. Well, a local legal tech SaaS company has a solution to these problems. Hear about that on this episode of Techopia Live. Hello, I'm Michael Curran from the Ottawa Business Journal. Welcome to Techopia Live. This is a regular podcast from OBJ that features interviews with founders and executives from Ottawa's technology sector. We want to shine a spotlight on the up-and-comers and keep you updated on the existing players in tech. All of this with a goal of keeping you informed and connected to the local tech sector. In today's episode, we are speaking with an Ottawa-based startup. It's a SaaS player. They've developed a SaaS offering that helps companies create secure data rooms, as well as track and protect intellectual property. The startup, I think, is unique because it has two female co-founders. The company in question is Fortress.Legal, and let's welcome one of its founders right now. Here is Natalie Raffoul. Hello, Natalie.
Hi, Michael. Great to be here.
It is very nice to see you.
You too.
Looking forward to this chat and letting our listeners and viewers learn a little bit more about Fortress.Legal, Natalie. But let's start off with you.
Yeah.
Who is Natalie? I know who you are.
I feel like so many in the community know me as an IP attorney here, a patent attorney here in Ottawa, because I've been in that space for so long, for over 20 years. But yeah, it's a new foray for me into the tech sector the last couple of years with this launch of Fortress.Legal with Jen Raoul. So yeah, it's great.
And as you indicated, I think you're quite well known in Ottawa, quite frankly, across Canada and probably on a global basis for a lot of the IP work you do. But let's dig into a little bit more about Fortress.Legal. Tell us about maybe the business problem that you're trying to solve fundamentally with this startup. That's
great. Well, it flows sort of out of a passion of mine to work with innovative, small, medium-sized companies. And so really what Fortress.Legal is an affordable, multi-sided platform that helps innovative companies really build and manage their IP, their contracts, their data, and have instant access to that, because traditionally that's sat behind whether you're working with attorneys or you're working with your accountants. A lot of that's not organized for the SME. So providing a platform where they can go and be able to look at that information, gather insights on that information, build out their data rooms for due diligence events. So many small, medium-sized and scaling innovative companies are looking for funding. They're fundraising, they're grabbing those all-important tax credits. And so in order to be able to do that, they need to be at the ready to show that important IP and corporate information, particularly if they're an innovative deep tech company. Whether they're in the high-tech sector or in the biotech sector.
And Natalie, when I hear you speaking about that, it reminds me that a lot of tech founders can get so focused on what they're doing, they might be missing some of the real fundamentals in creating their business, fundamentals that might drive long-term value, by the way. One of those fundamentals is IP, right? The people
exactly.
They're
So where are they keeping, well, that's it. So they're a deep tech company and they've got, trade secrets or sort of things like algorithms that they're keeping within a black box. Where does that information sit? How do they maintain that as secure? We know in such a competitive job market that key employees are coming and going. And so how are you managing that intellectual property? Downstream, you may want to evolve from a trade secret strategy to maybe getting some patents on some of those key aspects, that core technology. Well, if you haven't been documenting, if you haven't been carefully curating that information and managing it properly, then how do you properly protect yourself years from now? And then also you get those questions from your investors and downstream for maybe those you're collaborating with. What's your IP policy? How do you protect your core technology, or what is protected so far? So being able to really manage that in a way that is scalable for the company. And that's really what we're here to do, is to provide a platform that makes it easy for companies to have insight into that information without having to go through their attorney all the time. Because for the most part, if you are working with an IP attorney or a corporate attorney, a lot of that information is sitting with your attorneys for a very long time. As I say, how big do you generally grow before you hire that first lawyer in your organization? We often see that first lawyer getting hired when the company's at about 100 in size, even more sometimes. So.
And I can imagine, as a startup might be building up to hiring that first attorney and professionally looking after the IP, if they're taking those notes and tracking things in Fortress.Legal, then it's going to be a lot easier when you phone, the IP lawyer and say, we need to take some protection here. They're going to have everything kind of documented.
Well, that's it. The ability to collaborate with the attorney right there in the platform, so that when the CEO all of a sudden, or the CTO, has to now report to, their investment advisors, that information there is at the ready. You can run a report and find out, okay, we have a couple of patents, we have a couple of trademarks, this is a line item in our budget. The board's going to want to understand a little bit more about that. What about those all important contracts? I mean, a form of intellectual property for the company is those contracts. And when you're talking to investors, they want to see, those top 5 customer agreements. Where are those sitting? And where are the executed versions of those agreements? All too often, we've got contracts, but we don't know where those signed versions are. So, really having an ability to manage those intangible assets of the business properly. And that's what Fortress.Legal helps you to do.
Absolutely. It's a very real world problem. Let's talk a little bit about the company itself. I think I heard you already say that it was founded about 2 years ago, but give us a sense of when it was founded, how many employees, if you've secured any customers, any past or future funding, Natalie.
So we started early in 2020 and hired our first employee that year and started to develop, actually build out the product. We released our first version of the product this past fall. And at that point, we had 2 developers on staff. And now we've actually grown to a team of 7. We ended up fundraising this past fall as well and raised just over $1 million of seed funding, which was exciting for the company. And we're also leveraging support from IRAP as well. So that's been great. So they're helping our development, which has been fantastic. So all told, we're north of $1 million in terms of funding, which is fantastic. In terms of customers, we're proud to say that we've got a couple of law firms using the platform already, with a number of companies. So we're now at about 10 companies on the platform, and we've secured a number of other partnership deals to bring on other customers onto the platform. So it's early days for us, but we have a lot of exciting plans in terms of the way we see our company growing is through a partner strategy. So working with law firms to help them onboard the companies they work with to have a more seamless working relationship with them. Same thing with the incubators and venture capitalists, those that are working with companies where they really want to be able to assess those companies quickly, look at those data rooms, make sure they're managing their IP properly. We want to be able to partner with those organizations.
Well, thanks. That's a great overview of Fortress.Legal. Natalie, I want to dig into something that I know is important for you, and that's the fact that Fortress.Legal has 2 female co-founders. But before we talk about that, I just want to take a second to recognize the sponsor of this episode, Number Crunch. Number Crunch is an Ottawa-based firm that allows you to outsource your financials, especially if you're a technology startup or early stage company. Number Crunch services range from bookkeeping, accounts receivable, monthly reconciliations, to full virtual CFO services, including investment preparation and cash flow forecasting. Number Crunch is led by Susan Richards and Craig Hunn. Combined, they have more than 40 years of financial experience in this market, having advised dozens of firms. Number Crunch will help your company mitigate risk by ensuring proper accounting procedures, provide you with strategic input, and scale along with your business. To get a quote on outsourcing your accounting, please visit www.numbercrunch.ca. Welcome back. We're talking with Natalie Raffoul, one of the founders of Fortress.Legal. Natalie, only a few days ago, it was International Women's Day. There were lots of events in Ottawa. That was great to see. I think Fortress.Legal, one of the things that makes it unique is that it has two female founders. Is that an important differentiator for you, Natalie?
Well, I think a core principle, core strategy is really diversity. We want to have a diverse team, diverse perspectives, diverse backgrounds. And of course, being two women at the helm, we want to have women within the organization, and we are hoping to have at least 50%. In fact, at this point, it's more like, I think, 80% women, which is great. Our executive team, our head of finance and our head of operations are women. So we're excited to have Liddell, Malin Bennett, and Samantha Murray on our executive team as well. And so, we want to have, we want to have diversity. I think that's really important. And that's really what all of this is about in terms of encouraging women at executive roles and on boards, is about getting those diverse perspectives.
And Natalie, you've overcome some, maybe I'll call them gender barriers or obstacles over the course of your career. You're trained as an engineer, educated as a lawyer, of course. When we think of the local tech sector and quite frankly, the global tech sector, we see an underrepresentation of female leaders, female founders. Do you feel that enough is being done to support this diversity of founders in the local tech sector?
I think we can probably always do more. I think, shout out to Invest Ottawa that's doing great work with the She Boot program, because we were part of that this past fall. And I think that was a big factor in such a successful early stage raise for us. But it's still, we talked about that, the She Boot program, that actually the numbers for female founded organizations in terms of VC funding is down. I mean, it's down from a high of 2.8% of VC funding going to female led companies. Now down to 2%. So, there's a lot of work to be done in encouraging women to step up to the helm, and not necessarily. I come from an electrical engineering background, but you don't need to come from a tech background to be at the executive level of a tech company. We see folks coming from very diverse backgrounds getting into the tech sector, and we want to continue to encourage women to be in this sector, because this is a growing sector, and a lot of obviously change, innovation is going to really come from the tech sector. So there's some work to be done, absolutely.
And Natalie, before we wrap up, I want to peer into the future for Fortress.Legal. So let's look into the future, 2022. What type of milestones is Fortress.Legal trying to achieve this year?
Well, we're looking forward to really rounding out our partner strategy, because already we're in discussions with, one partner that looks like we'll be, grabbing about 50 customers through a single partner. So we're really looking for those relationships with incubators, accelerators, law firms, funding organizations that really want to help the SMEs, the startups, the scale-ups that they're working with, grow their business, increase their value. And as we know, intangible assets are really at the core in terms of the value of a business. I mean, how you value businesses today is through their intangibles, whether that's the brand, the trademarks, the patents, the trade secrets. That's where the value is. And so we really want to be at the core of that. And if we can really help companies scale in that way. So.
And that's never more true when it comes to intellectual property. I mean, in Ottawa's tech history, you've seen so many firms, some firms, unfortunately, that have gone under, and yet the value of their IP assets, have been in the tens of millions, hundreds of millions.
They've lived on. Nortel being the sort of the poster child, $4.5 billion. I mean, when you look at that asset, the single most valuable asset on their balance sheet at the end of the day ended up being that patent portfolio. And we see that so far. I mean, and look at, success stories in Ottawa like Canaxis, and they're fantastic. They were an early stage player in terms of looking at their patent portfolio. Many other companies with a story around their patents as well. And, other local stories like Mossade and Wyland, who are in the patent licensing business. But certainly IP is a core component, and it's not just about patents, but other forms of intellectual property as well that you need to manage properly.
So important to get off on the right footing and be organized when you're a startup in that. So best of luck, Natalie. It's all the time we have for today, but thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Michael. It's great.
Before we wrap up, let's take a look at some of the other great companies that are championing Techopia. Easy for me to say. Techopia is brought to you by many great sponsors, such as EY, building a better working world. Number Crunch, offering virtual CFO services for SaaS companies. Pearly Robertson Hill and McDougall, a leader in business and technology sector law. TD Bank, specialized programs for technology companies. The University of Ottawa Faculty of Engineering, creating the next generation of technical talent. Calian, innovative solutions delivered with integrity. Techopia is not only a podcast, we post new articles daily at obj.ca/Techopia. If you're on Facebook or Twitter, you can find Techopia at Techopia OTT. And if you're on YouTube, please subscribe and click the bell icon. A big thanks to Natalie Raffoul from Fortress.Legal for being on today's show, and we will continue to follow them with a lot of interest at Techopia. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode. We hope Techopia is helping you stay connected and informed on the local tech sector. Let's keep building Ottawa's technology utopia. That is Techopia. Bye-bye.